Hello everyone, GermanJagernaut here, and today I'm going to be doing something a little different, actually a lot different, because Ben has done his work. Now, if you don't know Ben, then you've been missing out. He's basically changed the zombies community, Black Ops 2 zombies, and I think for the better. At least he's changed how I look at zombies and ideas and theories, and he's basically done his job. The Origins trailer, the Apocalypse map pack, the last zombies map of Black Ops 2 was just revealed, but he revealed quite a bit more. So, as you said, he's leaving for now. He's going on a hiatus. He's not posting anything for a while because this story is done. And this video is a tribute, almost. My favorite videos of his were his map ideas, where he just talk for up to like 20 minutes at a time of just his idea for a map. Other videos I've seen of map ideas were just a sort of novel setting with some nifty weapon and perk ideas, but he really went in depth in the map structure itself and the story and reason behind it. So, because I've never done anything using my brain this summer, I thought I would, I don't know, send him off with both a thank you for what he's done and a sort of reassurance that the community will continue to be fine without him, I hope. Anyway, I've come up with a map idea that's sort of based in the same storyline as Ben's latest two map ideas, Dissension and Dark Baby. I'll leave a link in the description for the latter, but unfortunately he has removed his Dissension video, I think. I'm going to be going about this in the same way Ben does, with just me talking about the map, and I might put a picture or two because I find this a nice way of doing it, just sharing ideas. So, this is a map, my map, called Labyrinth. This is no way, shape, or form future-proof, by the way. I'm not expecting Treyarch or even Ben to look at this, but if they did, that would be awesome. Just know that this takes place 800 years in the future, and that this is another attempt at survival from the zombie apocalypse. Like Dark Baby, this is a failed attempt, but a different setting and a different method. Ben's two maps have the goal to be keeping humanity alive, but this map, or facility as I'll call it from here on out, is meant to preserve relics of what is now the past. I don't know exactly what Ben has in mind, but for the purposes of this map, the facilities in Dissension and Dark Baby are, or were, Plan B. The world's leaders and thinkers didn't think that humanity would have to be kept in specially designed areas. They initially thought that the zombie problem could be fixed. Spoilers, it couldn't. So Plan A was Labyrinth, which had two goals. First and foremost, figure out a solution to the zombie problem, which they would have done if they haven't been overrun first. And second, to preserve, that's a key word, preserve, certain aspects of human culture and information for when Earth was hospitable again. Of course, that didn't work out too well, and other projects had to be adopted. Now, if this didn't work, then why would you be there playing the map? Well, we'll get to that in a bit. Alright. So the map loads up, and there's a standard comic book panel startup screen, although I don't think that's relevant anymore for this storyline. But let's play along with it for now, because I've already written it down. And in the first panel or two is the map's sort of beginnings, the creation of the facility. Well, not really the creation itself, but when it was created, and there is chaos, which is funny, because there aren't any zombies on the first page or anything. However, the chaos is caused by civilians. You see scientists working in the facility because it's mainly first and foremost a research facility, but it's also a safe haven that not everyone could get into. Of course, if you have a safe haven, everyone's going to want to get in. So, of course, you'll be able to see huge crowds of people yelling in protest as a select few are taken onto a helicopter with armed security, and here you can see the real lengths the entire apocalypse thing is causing people to turn to. You see militia firing into a crowd of poor civilians. Let's go with Brazilian civilians, but that comes into play later. So the helicopter leaves, and of course the people are very upset, but then the zombies show up, and the civilians, hundreds of them, are defenseless. The zombies just have this feast, and the final panel is just the helicopter flying away from the carnage with several other helicopters in tow. Onto the map. So, at the start of the map, your character wakes up a little fuzzily. All you can see is fog. Not like the transit fog. That would be shit if the map was like that, but just bear with me. The fog is sort of bluish, and you can see your own breath as you're waking up. That's what I think would be a great idea to implement, not just in Call of Duty, but any next-gen title, the little things for embodiment in games with atmosphere. The sense that you are a person, and I think that little things like breathing can help with that, but I'll add more onto that later. So the fog starts to dissipate as you start moving your hands in disbelief a little sluggishly, and as the fog goes away, you see that you're in a capsule. It's one of those stereotypical sci-fi cryogenic freezing pod things. Like, if you've seen the first episode of Futurama, it's sort of like that, but smaller and less cartoonishly designed, obviously. Not like the ones from Matrix, though. Those are more black and orange and horizontal, and there's, like, goo in them. Anyway, as the fog dissipates, you hear banging. And by the time you regain full vision of your surroundings, you see that there's at least 10 zombies banging on the glass, trying to get to you, howling and biting at the glass of the capsule. Now, your controller vibrates if you're on console, and you start to hear your heart faintly beating faster and faster until the zombie that's closest to you bangs on the glass and it cracks just a little, and then your capsule opens. So the door of the capsule slides open rather quickly, sort of like a sliding door, but as it does, a shockwave of sorts comes out. Almost like an EMP grenade, almost like a thundergun blast, almost like an electric cherry wave, if you could imagine something like that. And this shuts down the zombies. It sets them back a foot or two, and the light to their eyes just goes out and they're defunct. They don't function anymore. And you and your 3 other friends, who just went through the exact same thing, by the way, start the map empty-handed. Now, you can buy the M14 or Olympia off the wall if you want, but if you're smart, you'll pick up the free M1911 under your capsule, as I'll continue to call it. And you're in a decent-sized room. You're not the only 4 people who were in here, though, frozen for 800-some years, but you're the only 4 people up and running. There are at least a dozen other capsules in the room, and they're pretty much all destroyed. The zombies got to them. They broke into their capsules visibly recently, as you can tell from the bloodstains, and ate the other, specimens, maybe? Although there is one remaining person in a capsule in the room, but you can't see who they are. Their capsule is still fogged up from the liquid nitrogen or whatever's being pumped in there. But that person is still alive. The capsule is still keeping them alive. It has its own functioning generator. It's just that there was a slight malfunction in that the capsule did not open at the proper time, which is now. But given the current state of the facility, this is the least of your problems. There is a little Easter egg of sorts, which you can figure out who it is for sure, but you will end up killing them in the process, and that will keep you from getting the best ending, which I'll get to more later. We'll just call the mystery person N, while being a lot more secretive and cryptic than I really need to be. This probably won't be made, but it's more fun. So if you haven't guessed yet, you've been preserved by this project, along with the now other deceased people, and tons of boxes of information and books and designs and seeds and other things that were deemed preservable. And of course, you are playing as 4 people who were selected among many others to be preserved until humanity rebuilt itself. These are people like politicians, scientists, doctors, actors, leaders, but you don't remember much of that. You only remember being put into a deep sleep to weather out this storm. However, of the 3 men and 1 woman, 2 of them you can determine who they were just by hearing their quotes. One was a scientist or brilliant mind of some sort, and the other a leader, either political or otherwise. Gradually, throughout the Easter egg, which I'll get to at the end, you'll figure out that 1 has some sort of connection to N, and you can infer that the last character wasn't exactly supposed to be there in the first place. Now, with these characters, I don't want them to copy and paste other characters from maps in this one, because we've had leaders in 5, we've had actors in Call of the Dead, and a few scientists here and there. I don't want their profession to be their character trait. I want their character traits to be an explanation for their former profession, and their former profession to be an explanation of why they're here. So I don't want the leader to be all, well, I'm the boss, or I'm in charge when he kills zombies, because that will get very old and boring and annoying very fast. I want him to say things like, we should head through here, or I'll go in first, follow me, because that's an actual character, a natural-born leader instead of a cartoonish image of one. And I don't want their professions to define them either. All of the characters would wear the same jumpsuit for the freezing process, and they all be just survivors, because that's all people are now, and all these relics, this information from the past, these movies and jobs and money are all a thing of the past. Back to the map itself. There's only 1 door in the starting room leading out into a hallway, and down this hallway you can see all the other rooms with other capsules, but they're either window spawns or completely inaccessible. But the point is, you're the only 4 left, excluding N. Now, the entire facility seems to be underground. Seems to be, because there's no windows and the only light is coming from emergency lights plugged into a generator in one of the next rooms. If you've ever seen the movie Day of the Dead by George Romero, then it's sort of like the facility in that, the underground facility lab thing, only more furnished with scientific tools, and the light, of course, a lot more destroyed after like 800 years. I don't know how dried blood would react after 800 years, but then again, it's not really exposed to the elements, so I don't know. The man-made parts are made of concrete and plaster, but there are also areas that are just hollowed out areas, like caves, if you want to call it that. Some rooms are half furnished, half rock, some are different parts rock and concrete. Point is, it's varied in that sense. From the hallway, you can choose to either go right or left. If you go right, you go through a few rooms, a cafeteria, this is the living quarters, and you pass by like a perk or 2 or something. Electric cherry? Maybe, it's fitting. Anyway, this is ways to the power switch, and it provides power to most of the facility. Emphasis on most. What makes Labyrinth different is that for 3 rooms, left of the starting hallway, you need to turn on the power for each one of those rooms separately, and I'll get to that in a bit. So if you go left, there's a door straight on, and the hallway takes a turn to the right and leads to another door, basically, so it's almost like an L shape. Taking the first door straight on leads to the first set of laboratories. Now, this facility preserved what needed to be, but its primary goal was to find a way to deal with the zombies, and the scientists were thought... Now, this facility preserved what needed to be, but its primary goal was to find a way to deal with the zombies, and the scientists there thought of 2 ways to go about this. Of course, to deal with any problem, you have to get rid of the problem, or make it not a problem anymore. So to make zombies not a problem anymore, to pacify them, or better yet, control them, sounds like a pretty good idea. Of course, this ultimately failed, and a radio recording or 2 shows that it was because of this project that the facility was overrun. There are plenty of inaccessible rooms that you can see through one-way mirrors that show the tests that the scientists were conducting, and some of them were horrible. You see hints of using live human test subjects as incentive for zombies to do certain tasks like moving objects. And no, let me get this out of the way. This is not Group 935 we're talking about. This is a project funded by many countries all over the world: US, UK, Germany, Japan, Russia, whatever you name it. At the end of the series of rooms and spaces, there is a sort of boss zombie that has been majorly experimented on, talking like huge disfigured muscles and needles and, I don't know, bolts like Frankenstein's monster, maybe. I haven't thought of a name for him, but it'll be about the size of the Big Cover. Actually, you know what? Frankenstein. Just work with that, maybe. Something along those lines. His eyes also do not glow, which doesn't sound like much, but he will be a major pain in the ass in certain areas that I'll talk about in a bit. Oh, he's big, he's strong, he's tough, but he's also a shy little wuss. You come across him in the room strapped to a table, wires implanted in him, shocking him for however many hundreds of years, and at the press of a button and I don't know, 1,000, 1,500 points, you can send him free. But once you do, he runs away to a randomly open area on the map. If you find him, you can do one of 2 things. I'm not going to go into it right now, but you can either use him as a sort of stronger big guy from Buried and dealing with the zombies, or a tougher George Romero from Call of the Dead. Actually, let me rephrase that. He won't have nearly as much health as Romero, because that was not fun, but he'll definitely be faster and stronger. So unless you're prepared with a good weapon and either Jug or Stamina or some crazy strategy, he will screw you over. Now, the final wing, if you take a left and then a right in the initial hallway, is the laboratories used to test weapons. If you can't control a zombie, then you have to kill it. Bullets do work nice, but that requires a steady hand, a reliable gun, and eventually there's going to be too many zombies and not enough accurate bullets fired. Plus, you can't search all around the globe and find every zombie in every building in your cave. But what if, from an airplane, you could, guaranteed, kill every zombie in an area? What if there was a gun that didn't destroy people or buildings or plants or animals, but that stopped zombies dead in their tracks? This is what they were trying to create here, and they almost succeeded in a way. Now, this wing of the facility, as I call it, is where the power didn't reach. You start off in a room that leads to 3 other rooms that each require a small purchase, probably 750 points. But also in this room is, 1, the generator that kept the emergency lights on, which, by the way, will shut off after round 15 if you don't turn on the power, leaving you in the dark and quick revive powerless. And 2, the circuit box. You can tell by the gnawed bones nearby that a zombie tore the box open during an encounter with a scientist, and there are 3 circuits missing. 3 circuits, 3 rooms. All 3 rooms lead to the same room, but each room has different contents, and each one has a different perk in it. Yes, Jug is in one of the rooms. However, when I say that these rooms are in the dark, without power, I really mean in the dark. As in, you can hardly see anything except the lit-up entrance and exit doorways, the flash from your gun, and the lights of their eyes. The HUD is also temporarily darkened, by the way. As I've said before, the boss zombie's eyes don't light up, they're just black, so having something that big, fast, and powerful coming at you when you're basically blind is not fun. And these are pretty decently sized rooms, too, filled with lots of lab equipment and shelves that get in your way. Plus, all 3 of these rooms are basically caves filled with man-made objects, so there are only ground spawns and the kind of wall spawns that we've only seen in Noct, Verrucht, and Shangri-La. But I'm mainly thinking of the one in the box room in Noct, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where there's what appears to be a solid stone wall, but the zombies break it apart, revealing they've come in from a tunnel. And these wall spawns in these rooms aren't man-made either. The zombies have been tunneling through solid rock for literally hundreds of years straight without rest. So these ones have broken, stubby arms that have been grinded by the rocks, if you can imagine that. And the characters don't talk while in the dark, so all you hear are the guns, the footsteps, the zombies howling echoed around the room, your breathing, and your heartbeat. So the darkness here is really an atmosphere, which I really like. However, you only have to go through one room to reach the goal room, which contains the 3 missing circuits in and around. In solo, you can carry all 3, but in multiplayer, you will have to have 3 people grab one of each, because that's the Treyarch way. And of course, you'll have to travel back through the dark to put the circuit back in the box. Of course, once putting one in the respective spot, the corresponding room will light up and the perk will turn on, allowing you to go in without fear. There is one more area where the pack-a-punch is, but I'm going to skip that for now and talk about the wonder weapon for Labyrinth, along with the other weapons. In order for the wonder weapon to be accessed in the mystery box, you do have to go into the goal room at the end of the dark rooms, because that was the wing it was created. Anyway, it is very similar to the wonder weapons, like the Wonder Waff, the Thunder Gun, and the Wave Gun, in the sense that it just kills all the zombies instantly, which I guess is unoriginal, admittedly, but it fits the setting and the challenge that accompanies it, and the story of the map, of course. It fires the same sort of shockwave that came from your capsule when it opened that basically shut off the zombies. Now, the unupgraded Thunder Gun has 2 shots in a clip. The Wonder Waff has 3, but this wonder weapon, let's just call it the pulse rifle or something, because I can't think of a better name, has 20-25 shots in a mag, which sounds overpowered because each shot can kill a whole horde, but there's 3 problems. 1, there's only 1 clip in reserve. It's reasonable. 2, it's not affected by max ammo, so you won't get ammo back if you pick up the power-up. And 3, once you get it out of the box, it's empty. It starts off with no ammo. The only way you can get more ammo for the gun is to go into one of the now lit dark rooms, find an outlet in the wall with an adapter, plug the gun in, which leaves you completely vulnerable and takes quite a while in multiplayer, by the way, and it fills up 1 clip. Only problem is it drains the power in the room for a few minutes, leaving you in the middle of a dark room without the perk that lost power. And if you want to fill up your spare clip, you do have to drain another room and darken it. However, there are 2 freebies on the map. One is the generator in the room with the circuit box that powers the emergency lights, and the other is a generator that I mentioned previously. But these are one use only and permanently turn off the things they power. So the Wonder Weapon is very powerful, and it can and will carry you easily to the high rounds. It just comes at the cost of darkness, which I think is good balancing, in a way. Other weapons from the box would be standard. There would be an experimental nail gun that the scientists would also use, or a spiker if you're that familiar with Borderlands 2, which doesn't deal too much damage, but has a massive headshot multiplier that will carry it around, I don't know, 20, 25. Grenades. Because of the technology of the pulse rifle, or whatever I decided to name it, and of the capsules, which is technology that the scientists clearly had at their disposal, I feel that EMP grenades would be fitting, but they would be improved over transit in the sense that if you took out a perk with it, you would gain some sort of benefit, like, say, your points back at the cost of losing the perk permanently, and it would also give you some things for free, maybe. And because the lab has freezing technology, I thought that the Winter's Howl would come back, but in the form of a grenade that's main purpose is to freeze a zombie or 2 instead of making a loud, moving crawler. Also, no monkey bombs, but there will be a similar power-up that has been mentioned before. On to Pack-a-Punch. So once you've lit up all the dark rooms, turn on the power, and turn on something else in the control wing, then you will be able to open a heavy steel door that seems bolted in at the end of the control wing for something around 3,000 points, I guess. That leads you to a room, or should I say part of a room. Once you open the door, you figure out that you're not really underground. You've been inside of a mountain the entire time. But as you can tell from the half room you're in, some sort of missile strike or avalanche or something huge must have taken out the side of the mountain, exposing that part of the room and destroying however much of the facility was there. And if you take a second to look out into the open, the sky is just covered in smog and ash and lightning, and the ground below it isn't exactly barren, but it's definitely just destroyed, weathered away. You can't immediately tell, but one of the characters might say something that'll cue in that this was once a rainforest teeming with life. But now there's just ash and little clusters of zombies just wandering in your direction. And you're in the Andes mountain range, by the way, somewhere in there. The other mountains to either side of you have been similarly destroyed by something or other a few hundred years back. The higher-ups of the old world, they didn't think that the underground would have been safe enough for the kinds of enemies they were facing. Let me just say right here, of course, Ascension is underground, I know, but that, of course, is Plan B, and zombies were the only thing left to deal with. So down the face of the mountain is the Pack-a-Punch machine. So you slide down the side of the mountain to the ledge it's on, and the zombies both climb up and slide down, so it's not the best place to stay. The only way up is an industrial elevator built in the mountain. It leads into the mountain. So you go in there, but once you reach the top, it's very, very dark. Almost like the dark rooms, but it's a lot longer, and there are a few light bulbs left flickering on every once in a while, but if you misfire and hit them, then it's lights out permanently. The encryptor would probably be somewhere in here too, and it's not a straight shot either. There are corners and dead ends, and eventually you rise up to an area and fall through a hole in the floor to the starting room, and there you are. Finally, let's talk about the Easter egg. It's structured sort of similarly to the Maxis and Richtofen quest lines in the sense that you do steps and pick which side you want to do. But in this, without giving too much away because I'm going out too long anyway, it's been 20 minutes, there's a point in the steps where all 4 players have to be in a room and they choose what to figure out. This is the first part of the Easter egg where the players want to figure out what to do, so they try and use let's say a computer or something, to give you vital information. About what? Well, you decide if you want the computer to tell you either the date and how long you can safely freeze yourself again, or you can try to communicate with other facilities with the same intention, maybe an arc of some sort, and depending on which one you pick, the characters will decide on what to do next in response to the zombie problem, and the steps you have to do will change accordingly. Both result in an end game, which I like. I don't like the custom maps with a viable ending that just turns the map from a story with a beginning and end into a race for points in an hour or two running in circles, but I do want you to earn the end of the game. The if you want to call it bad ending would be a lot easier than the good and best ending, but I'm only calling them that because the fates of the characters are different. And you would get a special achievement for the best ending though, although it's not really different at all from the good ending, except for one detail that I mentioned before. So that is my idea for Labyrinth. I hope you enjoyed. You may need to rewatch the video to pick up on every little thing that I entailed here, but let me know in the comments if you like this sort of thing, and if I should do more in the future, and if you enjoyed it, then like the video, because that would make me very happy. Share it with your friends too, especially if your friends work at Treyarch, because I really like this idea for characters, weapons, and atmosphere that complement each other. I feel that more maps need to have that, because moving the transit characters to Die, Rise, and Bury makes them seem really out of place, and arguably even the old crew moving to places like Shangri-La does seem a little disjointed. So this has been GermanJagernaut. Thank you, and have a nice life.